Alrighty. Halito, everyone. Welcome back to Chota Tasholi. Sahashaput Megan Baker, and I'm a research associate here in historic preservation. Today's Chota Tasholi are Curtis Billy, Jared Tom, and JJ Jacob, along with Jose Gonzalez. Curtis Billy is a Chota Anumpa instructor who's also had a long career working for Broken Bow Public Schools, where he was able to bring Choctaw culture into the classroom. Jared, also known as Pinty, along with JJ and Jose, are all cultural demonstrators for cultural services. JJ and Pinty were students of Curtis's when they were younger, and it's kind of really evident now that working in cultural services that that's kind of something that's affected them in their lives. We previously had Curtis and Assistant Director of the Choctaw Language School, Terry Billy, who was helping us out earlier as our Chata Tisholi talking about Choctaw language and culture back in July. And then JJ, Pinty, and Jose were also Chata Tisholi talking about stickball. So if you guys have missed those or want to learn more about those things, make sure to check out the Choctaw Nation Culture.com. You'll find the Chata Tisholi page under the Choctaw Culture section. So today, these four, are going to be talking about Chata social dancing. Every Labor Day, you can find all of us at the Chata Village on Friday and Saturdays and the Capitol Lawns on Sundays, where we demonstrate social dancing. So today, Curtis is going to talk a little bit about how dances are part of Choctaw culture and the work that he's done in sharing that with our public throughout his life. And then JJ and Pinty and Jose are going to kind of talk about their experiences learning from Curtis and how they kind of share that with Choctaw Nation today. So we're going to start off with Curtis. So why do Choctaws social dance?
I think all people dance, all cultures have dances. It's just that, ours happen to be Choctaw, and it's primarily related to our customs and ways of living, and it shows up in all aspects of life, traditionally among the Choctaw in the beginning, so that these things are elements that are still within the dances. For instance, like the circle, we go counterclockwise as opposed to clockwise. And the reason for that is because they looked at we Choctaws as being human, susceptible to failures and all of the life cycle that we go through, but the Creator God was perfect, and in His perfection, we have to show our humility by going the opposite direction of the circle rather than the clockwise. And so we go counterclockwise in our movement of the dances. And so that's just one of the things. And the other is that our footwork isn't too far off the ground. There's even this thing called 1 inch rule on most of the dances, that you're not to be off the ground more than 1 inch in several of the dances. But of course, war dance, different dances, those are different. But that was some of the basis. But the reason behind that was that Choctaws, in the belief that they shouldn't be off the earth for a long period of time. So the reverence for the earth or the ground, and therefore, even if they had to climb a tree, they would climb, but as soon as whatever they were doing, they would jump down real fast, get off. And so that, those kind of systems of cultural customs are within the dances as far as the performance or the dance itself. So we can see that, and then we see the males up front and the females following in most of the dances. And again, that's primarily because the belief was that the Choctaw believed that the Creator God created the male gender first and then the female. So it's more of a order than anything else as far as, like birth order of origin. Anything else? Emotionally.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the dances or give examples of them?
Technical difficulties.
I blame the
All right.
host.
Okay.
Blame me.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. We just can't see you, but you can go ahead.
Okay.
Let me see. Well, it says stop video. Is that what I need to do?
Yeah, why don't you just stop video for a second?
Why don't you what?
You could just go ahead and talk. We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I can see you, but I didn't know if it went off. I was trying to see if not, I would have continued on anyway. But as far as those kinds of elements that are cultural customs, then they're incorporated in all of Choctaw life. And so that's why we do some things that different from other cultures, particularly the Euro-American culture. We are a part of it, but we also have our values and thoughts, and we're not taught these things. It's just caught. It's just the way that we do things by living. And nobody's, sometimes they may say, you explain something, but as a whole, we just pick up where we're at. And so that's some of the things that would explain why our dances have that different concept as far as the dancing part goes. And I want to also mention that the early youth, the children, they would dance on their own, but in order for them to learn the dances and things like that, they would just come and dance and leave and come and go as they pleased. They didn't have much restriction upon them, so that's how everyone was taught. They didn't necessarily have dance practice or showing footsteps or anything. Everybody just caught it because of the direction of the chanter or the beat of the song or the clays or the sticks that made the rhythm. And so that is something that would be, now I'm talking about the original, there's nothing wrong with the practice and all this today, but I'm talking about, in those early days. And again, that, keep in mind, that's how children learn things in other areas of life. Just when they felt they could, then they joined. And so that concept is there and is still here with us. And for instance, in my family, I never told any of my kids to dance. They just decided to at an early age. And they would, I think Molly was about 3 when he would dance and chant one of the songs, and he'd just dance in a circle in the living room by himself, you know. And all of that, even before he started dancing within a group. And I guess later on he also became a chanter, and so those are, but you know, that's kind of the development of the concept that the Choctaw traditional educational system was based on in those early days. But we still have those elements going on today. It's just that nobody points it out.
That kind of brings me into the question of kind of how did you learn how to do Choctaw dances? Because I know you've said before that you went to Mississippi to kind of learn them. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, in the early 70s, I was a college student. I had to be a junior or a senior, and I assume a junior, but at Southeastern, and Terry was my wife. She was also a student here, and during the summer she took a job with the Choctaw, what we call larger parish at that time. Now they call themselves Choctaw Agency of the Presbyterian Church, and so during the summer they had a couple positions. One for what we would say working with the youth and those kind of thing, and the grant was faith and identity. And so in pursuing that, the needs assessment had to be done because it was targeting primarily the youth. And so in the needs assessment, pen and paper, pencil and paper, then the questions were asked and the feedback returned, and from these communities in McCurtain County. And so the number one was that they want to recapture their dances, their stickball, and their language and customs and things that they weren't sure that that we were able to. In other words, it was a revitalization of those things. So within that, their programs searched and came up with the Mississippi Fair, and therefore we made arrangements to meet with people about learning how to dance and those kinds of things about the culture. And of course, we were always interested in them, and they were always interested in us. So it was a good indication. And so at that time, it was probably about 71, and there were no casinos, and Choctaw Nation had just been had just had their first election, regaining their sovereignty back. So it was the early days. So we went there, and in their place, you probably wouldn't recognize the place that it turned into today. But it just had a school, football field, baseball field, and a couple buildings. So the school was more the site. So the fair began there, and it's still there on that same site, but you have several modern contemporary things added to it. But in the meantime, we took about 20 kids, youth, that could make it. It was in the summer, so we slept in the facility building, first floor and all that. But then during the day, they would schedule us to go to different communities and different locations, and we always wanted to go to the mound anyway, so we went there and had people waiting there to talk to us about their concept and things like that. So all this time I was always cassette recorders came out, so I was always recording those kinds of things and asking a lot of questions. And the plus was that I could speak the language because they couldn't express too much in English. So sometimes we had a student that was at Southeastern that lived in the community of Pearl River, so he was there, so we called him and he would come and assist us in the dance sometimes to allow us to explain to our youth and some of our speakers that to them they said it was going too fast. I can't hear what they're saying. And then there's a few words that are different, but not really. We're the same people, same language. And so that allowed us to be more of a learning process, and we did that daily for a certain amount of time. And so I think Terry had to be the instructor of the dance steps and things like that, and they chanted and all.
Did your audio go out? All right, I think their audio went out. I'm not sure what happened there. But until we can hear from him again, I would love to hear from JJ and Pinty. How did you guys meet Curtis and all of that?
Who's going first, me or him?
Hey, JJ, go ahead.
You want me to go first? All right.
Yeah.
So, they have this theory called the Big Bang Theory. No, I'm not going anywhere with that. He's actually my eldest uncle. My mom was his younger sister. So that's pretty much how I just always known him my whole life. I didn't necessarily grow up in Broken Bow. I grew up in Ada, A-Town representing. But we always took trips back home to Broken Bow. I'd always go visit my grandparents, and they was just always a fixture in my life, one way or another, because I can't really picture a time without them being around. So there was a lot of laughter in the household and everything, but like he was saying, I guess when you kind of get old enough, they're started doing the dance troupe and all that, so they were needing dancers, and I got thrown in. But it wasn't him; it was my mom that threw me in. She's the one that made me do it. So I had no say, so I had to learn. She just grabbed me by the ear, so you got to go dance today. And I didn't know anything about it, and I just kind of had to learn as I went along. Like I said, I wasn't necessarily shown really any instruction or none. I just got behind somebody, and I just watched what they do, and I just tried to mimic it the best way I could. So I guess learning by experience is pretty much how I kind of picked up on it. And a lot of the things that we went to were like I guess like educational functions, school functions, church functions. Every time that he would speak, I'd soak up some of that knowledge. And really, every time I go somewhere or, I talk to somebody that knows them, or anytime I can express it, I wouldn't really be here with cultural services without them, without my family, really, because everybody always gave me some drop of cultural Choctaw wisdom. So that's stuff I just kind of carry with me throughout the day. So I always enjoy listening to them talk because more or less I'm still kind of a student because I'm still picking up things. I always pick up things from PT. I always pick up things from Brad back there. Even Jose has a nugget of knowledge that kind of makes me think. So, but yeah, that's pretty much my origin stories with him. We just pretty much just grew up doing it, learning, and then just kind of spread it out from there because all I really knew was just some of the history and the dancing and some of the stickball. But when I first got here, I actually picked up on beating now, so I kind of got that down. But I'm learning something new every day. This is PT's turn now.
Well, I met him through Monica. Monica's my cousin, and that's his daughter-in-law. She's married to Brian, and so when I used to go to events, they'd contact my folks and kind of ask if I'd be willing to participate. And a lot of times I wasn't really doing anything, so they'd call up, ask me to join in, and I just take whatever with me, and I was included with the group. And basically how JJ learned how to dance, not knowing what to do, but just follow and learn. I say in the early years, my mom always has a story of like how when I first joined them, I was always tiny. So how I got the nickname Pinky for many years was from them, and how she said that me being so small, like how I would travel all over the place. Like if she thought about it, she would never let me go. I was so small. But the dances that we learned in those years, we've traveled all over, from schools to doing events, and a lot of times we went to Scullyville. Scullyville was a good place. Wheelock, we danced at Wheelock a few times. But yeah, during those years, man, it was all learn as you go, and really fortunate for like what doors that open for us today.
I gotta add too, there's a while where we really didn't have a chanter. And when Tony brought up having tape recorders and stuff, for the longest time we always danced to a tape. There's times where he'd have to borrow a Walkman or something, he'd put the headphones on the microphone, and that's how we'd get down. That's just things like that, man. It kind of makes you humbling. But at the same time, it's an experience I don't think a lot of people really will have. It was unique to me, and it's just a memory I like to look back on because sometimes I'll be really trying to listen and you hear like a couple of static. So I was like, are we still going or are they stopping? But it was a cool experience just growing up like that. And like I said, I'm very appreciative of it. And now whatever we have, we pass on to Jose. Jose is our little protege. He caught on real fast.
Jose, do you want to say anything about learning from Pinty and JJ?
I learned very much from them. I mean, it's good to see because people my age or kids my age, as y'all would say, they don't have this. So whenever I found it, it was something that, and I've been open-minded to a lot of different things, and so when they were willing to teach me and show me, and then I guess basically adopt me in, that's pretty great.
We own some now.
Yeah, I think I really love the story that Tony kind of tells because it's just kind of so Choctaw in that like you do what you can with the small amount of resources that you have to kind of bring it, right? Like they went out on their own to go to Mississippi, like found a way to go out there and learn the dances and spend all the time because we didn't have it for a long time, because when we came over on the Trail of Tears, we lost a lot of the kind of traditional knowledge. And so they found a way to kind of get it back. And so now, and then they taught it to you kids. And I've also been brought in to make dance on those very hot Labor Day days in the very long dress. It is stifling hot in that, you guys, if you don't know that experience.
You get
And it
used to it
looks
after a
like,
while.
yeah, it's true. All right, so Curtis is back, so I'm going to unmute him and make sure, double check if it works. Hello, can you hear us?
Hello.
Can you hear us?
I
Can you
can.
talk? All right,
Yes.
I'm going to mute you guys. I muted you. So we have him back on camera, but we don't hear anything. If you guys have any questions in the audience, feel free to drop them in. Okay, but in the meantime, I guess we'll have JJ and PNT. I'm going to ask you this question. So, can you tell us a little bit about the events that you would go to when you were kids as the dance troupe, and what were your favorite ones?
Shoot, we went to a lot. I really can't really specify certain ones. They all just seem to be, like I said, a lot of them school functions, a few church functions. I remember going to kind of like I can't remember if it was like a country club type event or something, but and these were the days when we got paid in food. So that was the first time I ever had filet mignon. I never knew what it was, but that stuck out to my mind all these years. I just remember loading up in his green van and we had to go do some dances, but afterwards, man, we got to get down on that filet mignon. So I love steak to this day, so that's probably why. But I don't even remember how old I was. I was probably 8 to 10. But yeah, it's just we went pretty much everywhere that was asked, and that's the cool thing I liked about it because we were always wanting to express our culture, express our identity, express who we were as a people. And like I said, I didn't necessarily grow up in Broken Bow, so being in Ada, I was mostly in Chickasaw territory, so I was exposed to a lot of their culture, so to speak. But one thing I noticed that most of the surrounding tribes within that area, because we're around the Seminoles and Creeks somewhat, they always did kind of like the stomp dances and stuff, but I always thought it was kind of the same. But the things we did were really different, so it stuck out to me more as to, I guess, we're more unique in kind of that way. So I never really seen any other tribes with the design like attire that we wear, the hats and all that stuff. So it's something I was always proud of to kind of stick out in that way.
Yeah, we put a lot of miles on that green van. Yeah, back to what JJ was talking about, like going to these events, and um, we really didn't. I really didn't know what it was gonna what was gonna happen. Like, we go to these events, and we kind of grew up in this. I like dancing because it went hand in hand with stickball, and I was still trying to learn a lot more, get better at stickball. Of course, being the runt of the group, like I was always I didn't have to weight as much as everybody else, so I was getting slung around quite a bit. So, but a lot of times we would play, and a lot of times we'd be kind of almost dirtied up and then go dance, and then as soon as we finish dancing, we go back and play. Um, there's a few events that we went to. I remember some of them were schools, like real big schools, and us just being there is almost like what I say, like rock star status, because us standing there, we introduce ourselves, and you kind of see some of us that were shy. I was shy, kind of get out of that shyness and able to talk. And if you put me on a subject of something I don't know, I'm probably not going to say much. But like the dancing and the stickball, that's something that I kind of grew up into, to where, man, I can talk all day. And I love hearing the stories from Curtis. But it takes me back to those early years of when we were waiting in line, getting ready to dance, and he's explaining everything. To some of the group, that was that was tiresome for them, but for me, I just was like a sponge, just kind of soaked everything in. And we really ever bring everything back to Broken Bow, where the cultural, well, I say the stronghold of where the cultural for me began. In early years, we've seen it. Even my mom was part of the dance troupe in early years, but when I was growing up, it was kind of like when the families kind of participated. Then when they had their own families, it kind of like that's where it stopped at. And as for me, growing up and seeing my aunts and my mom being involved in it, kind of took me a little way to where I was like, I want to be a part of this as long as I can. And now that I have kids of my own, like this is something that I want to share with them. So I take it all in, and they're next in line to carry this on. Hopefully, if they choose to.
Excellent. Curtis, can you talk and to see if we can hear you? I think I see his mouth moving, but I don't hear him.
We're missing good information.
I know, so sad. Okay.
Yeah, I blame the host.
Whatever. Okay. Anyways, well, I think Miss Billy she's our trooper out there helping out with the audio and the computer. So while she kind of works on that a little bit, could you say a little bit about some of the dances? Like, what are some of the dances that you do, and tell us a little bit about that. You'll have Curtis listening, so he'll know if you told the right thing.
Go ahead, PT.
That's tough being on the spot.
Yeah, I know. I was about to let him.
Well, glad I got Brad here. I don't know if you can see Brad. I got Brad for backup. Well, what we usually say, we usually have about 10 to 12 different dances. I mean, there's more, but kind of like the basic ones that we're used to is usually about 8 or 10. The first dance we do is the jump dance. And, the jump dance is what I call like a celebration dance. It's, when the men, or, a lot of the men did a lot of the hunting, but a lot of the women in the communities, they kind of got everything ready for like the festivities or, whatever event they were planning for. And, when they had like a successful hunt, bring in the food. They had like these set dances they would do during these seasons. So the jump dance was like the first dance that you would do for celebration. I always said it was the first dance to start with because it's after a successful hunt you want many more seasons of successful hunt. So the jump dance was a celebration toward that. That was always my acknowledgement of the jump dance, and there's different storylines for it. Care to share yours, JJ?
What, the jump dance or just the dance in general?
Oh, the jump dance.
Yeah, pretty much the same things he was going with. It was kind of a celebration, and there's always a dance that they'd always start out with. And that's something we always tend to do too. We always start out with the jump dance. It's just little anecdote stories, like when we have Brad doing our chants, he's a great chanter. I'm used to him nowadays, but there's a lot of times if on the road before an event, if we annoy him, he would chant a little bit longer because, believe it or not, when you're doing some of these dances, it does require some stamina. And think about it, it's almost like doing jumping jacks. But if Brad's mad at you, he's going to make that dance go a little bit longer than you want to. To get a little good cardio workout in. But yeah, that was just something like Jared said, that's some of the things that we've heard. One thing I always thought was cool about it is they said that was kind of a dance to say that's how the world was formed. By, the first created man and woman that came out of the mounds, jumping, kind of just forming the landscapes of the world, so to speak. And I always thought that was unique. I always thought that was really cool, especially with, like, we wear some of the ribbons. They said that those ribbons kind of signify us as a people kind of still being connected to the earth, kind of like an umbilical cord, so to speak. So But yeah, that's pretty much like Pinty said. That's just how I take it. And just a little funny story there involving Brad. Had to give him a shout out. Voice of the nation back there. Jose, anything?
I say the same thing.
But I mean, talking about like being shy and stuff, man. I remember I used to be so scared to do the Still and Partners dance because it requires you to go up to, a female and be like, hey, would you like my dance? And when you're probably like 8 to 10 years old and you get turned down, that hurts. It hurts.
I think it still hurts.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, it's funny nowadays. We look back on it and laugh, but and then you're like, oh, I just got shot down.
Yeah.
But it's all good.
Oh.
It's just
Well,
fun
back
to
then,
do.
well, back then in our youth years, a lot of these dances didn't have a toll on us. Now it takes a toll on us now.
Yeah,
The
as
jump,
the years
man.
go along.
Yeah. Jump dance, kind of like how we do it now. Like it's the faster paced dances, and shoot, after you finish the second dance, you're just winded. But yeah, we always start out with the jump dance, and I always say the crowd favorite is always the Raccoon Dance, and that's a really big hit with schools and all kinds of audiences. That hits all ages. I always thought like with the kids, that was a fun thing, but
Now, do you hear?
yeah, we hear you. Hey,
You hear now?
yeah,
We can hear you.
pretty good.
Megan. I can't see Megan. Oh, I hear and see Megan.
I'm here. Okay. I think now your audio is working perfectly.
That's good.
Mine's been working.
She would ask me the questions on the phone,
You still can't pick you up.
but
This is perfect now. There's no echo either.
How's my hair look?
All right. I know Jared and JJ were in the middle of talking about a dance. Did you want to kind of just finish what you guys were saying?
I was just gonna just top it off with the Raccoon Dance being an all age favorite. Like I said, it was a big hit with the youth kids, but when we would do it around adults, we didn't think they would kind of join in or see the fun in it. But I kind of get a kick out of it that the adults enjoy it as much as the youth kids. So that's always a favorite. Yeah, sometimes even more. They don't ever want that dance to stop.
It was funny, like some of these people, you would think that when they're doing it, you think they wouldn't be as fast as they are. But man, some of them, they got some speed. There's like a move I do. I'm not going to do it because I don't want none of y'all to know my secret, but it keeps me from chasing people. But there's a few times when I try it, I had already gone. I'm just turned and they're like Deion Sanders or something, man. It's crazy. You can ask Brad. It's been a lot of funny chases we had to do. Pinty's favorite, I'll go ahead and tell it. I'm sure we're going to lead up to it eventually. Was doing the dances at the Broken Bow Powwow. We had I want to say that one was kind of big. We had a big group. And was doing the Raccoon Dance. It was my turn to chase somebody. And I wasn't as fast as I thought I was that day. And anyways, I was getting ready to chase my partner. And by the time she took off, I'm already like, what in the world? So I go off chase. And mind you, I'm like a athletically built machine. So I was going like the hardest I could. And I was going too hard apparently because there was like a cable in the middle of the gym. I tripped over it. So everything slowed down for me. I felt like Superman for like a good second or two. And then when I hit that floor, you could hear that big old thud. And yeah, I was hurting. I ran out of air. My pride was hurt a little bit. Still didn't catch her after all that. I thought she'd feel sorry for me when you come back. No. She just kept on going. Yeah, Pinty is there for that. So yeah, he has to bring that up. I'm going to go ahead and shoot myself in the foot before you can.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Well, okay, so I did shoot myself in the foot. That's okay. That's a fun story for everyone to hear and tell.
We call that the shot heard around the world because
I sure felt it.
Yeah, if you've ever been in the Broken Bow Gymnasium, it's pretty huge, but they echoed out and it kind of silenced the crowd because everybody was just like, just everyone just kind of stopped. And then he like gets up and makes a little, I'm okay, and like takes off, and everybody's like starts to laughing. I mean, I think that's what it is about, Choctaw people or just any indigenous people in general. Like we enjoy a good laugh, and ain't nobody does it better than when we laugh at ourselves.
I went laughing myself.
Awesome.
I can't down, but after then I was like shamed out, brother.
Thoroughly entertaining. Toady, can you say something just to make sure we know your audio works?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
All right.
Awesome. I was wondering, could you say a little bit about the music that kind of, or chanting that goes along with the dances, and tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Initially, when we were talking about the using the recording, when we didn't have a chanter, then actually I learned that in Mississippi. Their high school dance group didn't have a chanter, so they would use the record player record. And so I went one step further, went to a recording. So I wouldn't have to carry around the record player. So that they used it also. They didn't always have a chanter, for all those events. They weren't prevalent. And so in the music part of it, we're considered what we call those that began singing. Originally, there would be males and female singers. And so the male chanter would start it off, and then the rest of the group would catch up to them or to him and join in. And it would have what we call a call and response type of song. And so that allowed, which was traditional, and so that kind of carries over into our gospel hymnal, which again started in the 1820s. I think the first Choctaw hymn songbook was printed in 1824, but then they produced in mass in 1827, and we're still using the same book or song. And so they leader of the song will start out singing, and they may sing maybe three or four lyrics, and then the rest of the group joins in. And so if you ever have to lead, and you, after a while, and you think that maybe I'm the only one singing, but they'll join you. So don't stop if you're ever in that position. And so the dance, again, is part of the custom. And so the songs are part of that kind of custom. And so I'm just saying that even in the modern days, that style still prevails. But the chanters sometimes would start out early and in their childhood, and they would imitate and they would sing as much as they knew, and eventually they would be recognized enough to join the group that would chant and eventually chant on their own, And again, that's that same concept of join us or do this when you can. And of course, the chanter was always welcome because, again, there are, as far as numbers goes, probably smaller group than the dancers. And so the chanter in their beat, in their harmony, and in their sounds indicate if it goes high, sometimes then it's time to change either directions or movement, so forth. So you kind of learn that during the dance. So if the other is that Choctaws also have some Choctaw words. We have Choctaw words in the social dance chants. Not all of them, but some of them. And sometimes in the early days, people that came by, early Europeans, would in the 1700s would sometimes indicate some pieces of what occurred, and so the customs are still the same. But when we look at the chanting part of the dances, then it has rhythm, it has the beat, and if some dances call for the stick or the claves that they are in tune with, and that indicates which way to be in, but to be inspired within by hearing the chants, then it would you would just move naturally of the dance rather than trying to remember, is it this step, that step, 1, 2, 3. You just automatically absorbed it and or become one with the music and the dance group, and so that's something that is understood, but we rarely talk about it in the way that that's the way it should be done. But our chanters actually control the dances in a way that we are able to get in tune with the chant or the music. And back to the early 1700s, then one of the traders that was in that area, he wrote a book, a guy named James Adair, and he tried to find reasons why southeastern tribes were pretty much lost tribes of the Israelites, and so some of the things like in our chant among the Choctaws, we might say way ha or Yahweh ha, and so he was saying that that's really saying the Hebrew word way Yah. And so that, you know, he would associate those things and some of the dances as close to, and some of the customs as close to the Israelites in those kinds of tones and those types of resemblance of the culture itself. And so that's again, some things that we can research, but to be accurate, it's just passed on from one generation to the next, just like in any oral tradition, or songs, or tones, and so forth. And how we maintain that is that we have to have people that are willing to accept the challenge and enjoy doing the chanting or the singing. And most of us can, but we may not be at that quality, you know, as far as a chanter with their tones of up and down type of singing. And let's say the walk dance, it says onali. That means I have arrived or I have gotten there. And so, but it begins on saying iali, I am going. And so, but it ends is I have arrived. And so that can be also, attributed to the long migrations they made, but also it can be spiritually, and it can also be metaphorically that, they have arrived in a mature part of, that part of customs and things like that. So, so those are some of the words that are in some of the songs, but the animal chants, the raccoon, for instance, that's indication of having fun and enjoying yourself. And so that song relates to our ability to express and recognize that we do enjoy playfulness and also relaxation and just being with each other and having fun in that kind of atmosphere. So the Raccoon Dance was added later than the rest of the dances that we probably do today in the social dances. Now, the several dances, there were probably at least 3 or 4 times as many songs, or even larger, that we have lost. And so our social dances, some of them were part of some type of ceremonial event, like the wedding dance, for instance. So it was part of the wedding ceremony. And of course, that's a social event. In addition to a human relation and also divine type of understanding. So we can see that the wedding dance also has all the cultural aspects of any of the traditional cultures of the early traditions or customs that we exhibited then. And as I mentioned, we still do the cultural norms, our values, and so forth. So the singing and the chanting may differ from one chanter to the other, but a lot of times it's pretty close to each other, and that probably any group can dance to a different chanter in that way. And there are some that may have a dance, some groups or communities that may have a dance that the others don't have, and they may have a chant that others don't have, even for the same dance. And so in explanation of all those types of abilities, then the chanter is really highly honored and recognized for his ability. And so, as I was saying, in some of the things, the women in the matrilineal society, in in a peace negotiation, then the women, a group of women, would start singing, and then they would be seated. and the males would stand behind them and catch up to them as they started, and they would be kind of like the background music, singers for them. And so that's where normally we would probably have a chanter and females singing with them, but if not, sometimes the dancers respond in either the chants or some parts of it. And so and they yell at different times, and so in some of the chants, it kind of indicates, that in the language. And tasaha is the word for hollering out, or what I guess historians and archaeologists call war cry. But so that's still a part of us today, and even if Choctaws going out in the woods and hunting, then at the end of the day, where the lost direction, wanting to find where the other is, and they would holler, and somebody would answer and holler till they finally met at a location. And so, that's just part of our custom to begin with, but at the same time, it's incorporated in the chant. But it indicates also, like in the Stealing Partners dance, when it says toshpa, which means hurry, falama, which means kind of return or turn around, filima, micha, tasaha. And so it means holler, turn around and holler when they twirl you around and get you in your position. So, that's the indication for the chanter to that you do that when within this dance. Okay, am I still with you?
We can still hear you, so you can keep talking.
Okay, that's good. That's even better. So the importance of all of that is still relevant today, even in our gospel hymns. And the church age came in the 1820s to the Choctaw. And so since then, a lot of the culture moved into the church arena. Our food, our singing, our socializing, all the norms, our values, and so forth. So in some cultures, the church are the ones that maybe disrupted their culture, but in the Choctaw, it just moved into the church arena. So some our memorials, our funerals, our feasting, all of these are part of traditional Choctaw norms that we still indicate, even just as families or groups or relatives or church families and so forth. So that's really important. And in doing that, honoring of people a lot of times wasn't so much in recognition of the things that we normally may recognize people with today, but they recognized and honored the simple things that they would recognize for people. And traditionally, people never spoke for themselves. Someone always spoke on their behalf. And therefore, in that meaning, the tradition in that type of style was that you have someone that recognizes all of this and that other people probably do also. So much of the leadership in that day, early days, were based on how much people were able to assist each other and encourage each other and partake of all the things that the culture had. And so they would be the leaders. And so Choctaws chose their leaders based on their values, generosity, and acceptability of respecting others before yourself. You know, if you had a bowl of labona and fry bread and you were hungry, and which I am right now, and then someone else comes up and they would gladly offer it to them, you know, and usually they would take it. And so, you know, those are some of the values that we honor and recognize in our behavior today. And again, back to the singing and chanting and all of those songs are today really important because we have death songs, we have songs of being able to recognize our heavenly destination and ability to praise and glorify the Savior and things like that. So we have songs that are listed in that, and there's also songs of invitation to become a part of the faith. And so we can also see in Christian faith, and I'm speaking of, you know, the hymnals, and towards the back, they would have the wedding ceremony written in it, and it's still in there in those small books, not the large print one. And so it has articles of faith and even those kinds of things. So they were all part of one book, because again, the idea of that type of spirituality flowing through every part of life, and it touched all of those in addition to just being in normal conditions. But as groups and as families and as churches and as districts, as clans and families and so forth. So each group would always have their own songs and recognize. So today we honor people usually with a song. Even if they have a birthday, we may get them all up in the front, either in the church or any local center, and sing them a Choctaw hymn and recognize their age and their birthdays and so forth. So even though the songs are in a different realm, they're also the same, and it recognizes the same things that before Christianity that we still sing and honor within our dances also. And all of the animal dances took on animal characteristics, human characteristics. And so when Choctaws would tell a story, then the animals would be able to talk. They would be able to have behaviors like Choctaws or humans, and so that was a third person story, so that they wouldn't say Joe did this and Jack did that and all that without calling out names. They might say the Chokfi and the Noshoba, and so no one was confronted, but they all got the message, the value of it, you know, the meaning. And the meaning wasn't explained. And so everyone received whatever they received, what it meant to them. And it was always exactly what they needed at that time. And so those kind of things are still with us. And so we recognize those things in our culture, and as far as the singing and at funerals, and we also feast, sometimes before, sometimes after, sometimes a day later, or a week later, or whatever, you know. So, but that's still part of our unique makeup. And as you notice that, I think JJ said he one of his fond memories was eating a filet mignon, and so in Choctaw culture, if we have a meeting and we say, somebody says, "How was the meeting?" I might say, "Oh yeah, it was all right," and then they may say, "How was the food?" And I say, "Well, that's okay too." And then, but if I say, "Well, it was real good," we ate filet mignon, baked potato, and all the fry bread you could eat, and all of that, and so the one listening say, "Well, that was a great meeting." So we would value our meeting based on the food being served. So again, that's kind of with us today. We say that occasionally. Any other
Awesome.
things?
Any other questions? I think I have a question for JJ and Pinty. Thanks for sharing that. But also, so you guys have learned from Curtis, and it's kind of really shaped your lives. But so why do you guys dance today? Why is it still so important to you? I know you've touched on it a little bit, but go ahead. We can start with Pinty.
I didn't know that my family was involved in it until like later in the years. So like later in the years, I see like pictures of my mom and pictures of my aunts, and when you look back on family, and not even like due to COVID, but the years, a lot of these people now, we don't have a lot of people that that was there or like kind of taught you along the way. So for me, it's taken on a bigger role because out of respect and the love you have for the people that have gone on. For me, it's retaining something that's I want to pass on to my children one day. My daughter, she's real big in it. She started when she was younger, and even when she was like 2 or 3 years old, when she sees a seal in anywhere, she automatically knows that's Choctaw Nation. And her being so young, she knows like stickball, the social dancing. She might not know which dances are what, but like when we start, she can kind of get in there and kind of tell you a little bit about it. And even my medium man family is involved in it too. So it's something that I always cherish, and because I will always thank Curtis, Billy, and the family for giving me something and open doors for me. And back then when we were kids, participating, that was just a fun times for us. Did I ever think it would like land a career for me? No, but this is an awesome opportunity, and like I said, I'm grateful for it, and it's just a blessing.
This is where I take it away. Yeah, actually, yeah, same thing. Really, to me, it kind of makes you feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself. So it instills a sense of pride in me. It makes me proud to be Native American, especially a Choctaw Nation member. And I think it's also unique in a way that we actually get to teach it too, just kind of like the whole circle of life that Choctaw people are known for. We learned, we expressed it, but now we got our turn to actually turn around and teach it too. And that part's always kind of humbling because there's a lot of times I'll just kind of be talking, explaining things, and there's things that I can just kind of remember from memory that Curtis said that I remember that I'll be teaching on. So to me, that's kind of the cool thing about it. It's just the whole teaching aspect, being proud of yourself, being proud to be Native, especially in these turbulent times. We're losing people left and right, especially language speakers, people who've known like a lot of this culture, a lot of this knowledge. So I think it's kind of important for us as cultural keepers to kind of just keep that going. And it's kind of a way to, stick with my family too. There's a lot of my family members that still participate in a lot of our dances, especially during Labor Day. So it's a good time for us to kind of meet up, catch up, but then also get to express ourselves and our cultural identities as Choctaw people through these dances. How's that?
Sounds real good, JJ and Pinky, Mr. Tom. I want to add to that we also probably some of the early dancers are probably in their 60s, and they, for instance, even people like Angie Williston that works in language department, she was a dancer. And she was a McKinney, and all the McKinney families related to me are also early part of the dance group and also leading up to it, and their children participated. So I was able to be there for at least 2 generations, that people that started dancing, and then the next, their children came up and danced. And so over time, it became a tradition. They expected to be a dancer, or they expected to play stickball. There was no one had to encourage them, and I'm sure they were encouraged by their parents, but they just thought it was just the thing they should do. And so, that's where that type of tradition is started. And that's what we really want to maintain throughout the Choctaw Nation, in all communities, in all districts, of that, not just for a select few or some, but, to maintain it. And so that was always my vision, that someday that we would continually have the dances, the stickball, and the feasting particularly, and then on and on, all the things that we do, which we're recapturing slowly. And so we're in the right time that these things could be expressed and retaught and recaptured and revitalized. And for instance, my grandchildren, they learned from their parents, which were part of my dance group, and then eventually they became a part of our dance group, and goes on, and that's 2 generations, and that includes Brenner, my grandson, and he was probably began dancing at an early age, maybe out of necessity, but when sometimes I would have to go do a talk for assembly or school or to the tribe or a lot of times we went to the state fair, things like that, then they would sometimes if I had to take a small group because of the group, then Brenner would have to go. And so he captured a lot of those things. And today he can do the dance, do the chants, and make stickball sticks and all those kinds of things, pottery and, anything that we have taught within the Broken Bow schools, because we did teach native arts and crafts, beadwork, leatherwork, ceramics, pottery, weaving and painting and those kinds of things within our Indian, we called it American Indian art. And so you could take 4 years of it, and it would count as your art class. If you needed it, it would count. But it was we had certified teachers and aides. We had certified aides that would assist in that, and so that allowed us to maintain those things. And that was really the vision of the parents in that community when I first got there, that when we had the Indian education funds, most schools were going into remedial programs, and that committee said, if we have Title I, we got all these things. If they don't learn from that, how are we going to improve on that? And we want to learn our language, our culture, what it means, and these things that we're losing. And so that was the emphasis. But the youth council determined what we wanted to do, and consequently it was the same type of goals for that community. So I had a lot of help, a lot of parental community people, teachers, administrators, and on that supported us. So we were able to be there and capitalize on all of that that the next generation can pick it up. So I'm glad to hear that the next generation will be able to pick it up, and I'm certain that it will continue. And I'm real enthused and glad and excited for the future generations.
All right, Yakoki, Tony, sorry. So we'll just have one more question since we're out of time, but people are, of course, wondering how can they learn about social dancing if they don't live in Oklahoma, or yeah. So either Pinty or JJ.
Okay, ask the cultural department there and see how they do that type of outreach.
Yeah, we're getting things. Or you want to go?
Go ahead. I'll tell.
Yeah,
I'll tell
we're just getting things in order right now to kind of make sure that we can teach, because we want to make sure everybody's safe and practice social distancing and stuff. So it's in the works right now. It's something we're going to work on, and yeah, we'll get it figured out. Once we get it figured out, we'll get information sent out there, because that's one thing we kind of miss doing, is going down to the community and teaching. It's not fun being stuck behind a desk all day, especially when you're just used to going out and interacting with people, because I think that's how we all work best, is when we're out in the field teaching. I mean, these are social dances, so a lot of these things do involve being around people. I think once you kind of lose some of that aspect of it, it's probably not as poignant as it can be. But yeah, well, it's in the works. Jared?
Yeah, just like what he was saying, there's this is not, I mean, with the COVID stuff that's happening now, it's kind of put a hold on a lot of things. But I always think too is like, I've been really good at trying to adapt and trying to get everybody on board to adapt with the times. We got the abilities to still do the things that we do. Might not be as big, but we could still interact. We could still do these things through those WebEx and just different things. So it's just something that we're going to all have to come together and kind of brainstorm and figure out what we can do. And like I said, I'm not accepting defeat on it. I want to find out like what we're capable of doing, and we want to put stuff out there. And because these are hard times, with our cultural stuff that's going on, and I'm gonna touch back on the history of it. If we don't maintain it, we don't maintain our language, we don't maintain our dances and continue it, it's real slim. And like I said, we've all got hit with the COVID stuff that happened, and so now with it being kind of restricting us, now should be the time for us to teach and learn to adapt to it, because we need this.
Yeah, it's so important to kind of get out there. And, we're really trying to, we can't forget that we're in a pandemic and we're trying the best to protect our elders, right? Like, it would be easier for me to like hop over to Toadie's house and turn on make sure his computer works so there's no audio problems, but like we're doing what we can to make sure everyone is safe.
Why didn't you do it? No.
Because I'm not vaccinated.
Meg is my cousin, so I get to pick on her, everybody. I'm not just picking on her for no reason. She's my relative, so it's earned.
So that is kind of a really big part of this, but we're definitely kind of working on it and trying to learn that. But the other kind of component I also think is important to remember is like these are social dances, right? You can't just kind of watch it and learn dancing by yourself. You have to do it with people, because that's kind of part of the process, is that you get to know people, you learn the stories, and you're in a situation where you're together. And so like learning the dances in isolation kind of defeats that purpose of it. And I think that's kind of one of the harder things. It's not about an individual learning a single kind of dance, but you have to dance it with other people. You have to be there kind of with the chanter to follow the steps and learn that way. And so that's kind of why it's so important that people come to Oklahoma, they come to Choctaw Nation to come learn with us, or to go to, the community events that they used to have that were kind of had to put on hold. But
social dances, not socially distancing dances.
Yeah, they're not really conducive to social distancing.
It's not, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
I just want to add one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Add one thing. With the dances, to a lot of us, it's impactful. It has a sense of healing in some sort of way. And, like I said, when we get back out there and, hopefully when all this stuff does clear up, or, when we're able to go back to normal lives, like this is something that, I've always had a sense when we bring other people in, a lot of people take this to heart because it's a sense of belonging. This is a part of them. So yeah, it is, learning with the group is a major thing. And, you can't really learn social distance, just watching the dances. The biggest part about it is being part of it. And, that's something that, we all miss, and hopefully we get back to that one day. But that's just what I miss too, is just the way that a lot of us get out there and dance. I mean, to me, I take it to heart every time I'm out there, because it's just like a flow of energy that I say that a lot of people come to mind when you're dancing. And for just that instant, or with the dances, you're in tune with that spiritual part. So I miss it.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to add, Toadie, about that?
I'd like, Motley is right here. He's a chanter, so I'd just ask him to say a few words about chanting. And he taught most of those people at the school after I left. So say something, Molly, about chanting, how you enjoy it. She can hear you from here.
Oh, y'all covered all the bases pretty much. It's just like you said, it's culture, it's your identity. I do it because I love it. I taught my kids, and I do the same process for Broken Bow schools. I go down there and volunteer my time because that's my community. And not only them, but anybody in 10 and a half counties. And it's just joy of the sending on your own, excuse me, you know, sharing your heritage and your culture with everybody else. And, you know, you guys like Pinky and JJ, you know, it's no big deal to teach people how to dance, you know. I mean, that's their culture identity. When they want to know what's going on and how to do it, you should be honored to do that, you know, because you're handing down that from generation to generation. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah,
All right,
Cookie.
sounds good. Yeah, and in reality, we dance not to perform, but to express ourselves and our culture and our identity, and also we educate by allowing people to join us in the dance, where they're, you know, they have the proper Choctaw attire, you know, and even those which we didn't talk about has a good history about it, and so we can express more how it feels to do the dance and be a part of it, rather than just being able to talk about it. So it's also really important, and particularly if you're a Choctaw, that it adds to your self-concept, your identity of who you are, and gives you more emphasis on your value and you knowing the past, but also moving forward towards the future. Whatever comes, you still can maintain that, and that's what the early Choctaws at the coming of the Europeans who asked for their education for their youth. That was their vision for Choctaws to learn and compete in the Euro-American style of living, and also maintain the Choctaw cultural aspect of living together. And they believed it could be done, and it's being done currently, but we are having to revitalize a lot of our cultural customs and language right now, but I think it's we're in good hands. So I think it will continue on, and I appreciate everybody that participates.
Awesome. Thank you. So we're out of time. So I just want to say Yakoki to Gigi, Pinty, Toady, Miss Billy, who did all of our tech in the background, Jose, as well as our special guests, Jose and Brad, who were kind of also there. So our next Chahta Tisholi is going to be on Thursday, February 18th, with Dr. James Taylor Carson, the author of Searching for the Bright Path, which follows Choctaw life in the Mississippi homeland. And he's going to be joining us from Australia. So we're actually going to be at a different time at 6 p.m. in the afternoon, in the evening. So just make a note of that. And
I should say I am a doctor because Toad used to call me Dr. J growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. J in the house.